I'm just going to start by saying that I feel like an asshat. Roughly 2 weeks after I posted a reasonably positive re-review of Battlefront 2, DICE ship an extremely underwhelming start to Season 2. In addition to this, rumours start circulating about EA abandoning the game. Leaks from someone claiming to be close to the development team at DICE said that the vast majority of the devs have moved on to other projects, most likely Battlefield 5. This source says that Criterion and Motive have apparently not worked on the project in months, and that Season 2 will essentially be a stopgap to buy time for a much bigger expansion planned later in the year. Of course, it's hard to know how much or if any of this is true, but based on what has been delivered in Season 2, it's hard not to be concerned with the future of the game. I still stand by my comments in my re-review. Battlefront 2 is an engaging, albeit flawed experience. There are moments of brilliance, but there are also lots of problems which have yet to be addressed. The biggest problem though, if you ask me, is that it's failing one of the main elements we were sold on at launch, and that is the live service component. Battlefront 2 was originally marketed as an experience that would see regular free updates. The CFO of DICE, Blake Jorgensen, said this about their plans prior to the game's launch. What we're really doing is trying to build a live service in which we'll be adding new content constantly to the game and giving people new ways to play the game. They can play and earn things, or they can actually pay for things. Clearly the way they intended on funding this was through loot crates, and now that they've been removed from the game, there has been an obvious shift in strategy. Undoubtedly, overhauling the progression system had a significant impact on the size and number of post-launch updates, but it's also clear that there hasn't been enough resources to make changes happen quickly. It has been 5 months in between Season 1 and 2, and although there have been updates in between, they have failed to deliver much in the way of new content. Season 2 should have been a turning point. With progression dealt with and out of the way, the development team could focus on delivering the live service that so many of us have been hoping for. Instead, what has been delivered in this update falls very short of what players have come to expect from the live service model. Now that's not to say that Season 2 is a bad update. There are plenty of positives in Season 2 which I'll cover shortly, but when measured against what other games are doing, and when compared to the first season's content, it's a pretty meagre offering. The biggest problem I have with Season 2 is the reliance on recycled content. In fact, almost everything that shipped at the start of Season 2 has been repurposed, whether it be retooled modes or reusing an existing map from the 2015 game. Seasonal events are supposed to be a big deal, with new attractions that keep players engaged. Games like Call of Duty, Overwatch and Fortnite have obviously set the bar quite high with these types of updates, and I'm not suggesting that Battlefront needs to match their size, but they do outline how little effort has been put into Season 2. For people who didn't buy the DLC for the 2015 game, then the old content might be exciting, but for fans who did, it's a slap in the face. Sure, the old maps are well designed and the returning modes are still fun, but we've seen them already. Maybe I'm the odd one out here, but when I purchase a new game I expect new experiences. If I wanted to relive maps and modes from the 2015 game, then I could simply play it. That's of course if I could actually find a game, but I digress. Don't get me wrong, I have no issue with recycling content such as maps. Other games do it all the time. Call of Duty does it pretty much every year, but the difference with Call of Duty's returning maps is that they are always reworked or reimagined in some way. They manage to take something well known and well trodden and make it feel fresh and exciting again. One of the 2 maps included in Season 2 is Jabba's Palace from the Outer Rim DLC from 2015. It's a nice enough map, but it's essentially the same as it was in the first Battlefront, and as far as it being content that's connected to Han Solo, it's a loose connection at best. This brings me to the most disappointing thing about Season 2. Despite being called the Han Solo season, it launched with literally 0 Han Solo content. Now this was addressed in the second half of the season, but come on. My guess is that EA felt that they had to start the season when they did to coincide with the Solo film, otherwise it would have been really obvious that they were running behind schedule. The other disappointing thing about Season 2 is the scope. When you compare the amount of content of both Battlefront 2's seasons, it's clear that this isn't a big update. It's also worth mentioning that Season 2 has nothing for the game's biggest modes, Galactic Assault and Starfighter Assault, outside of Lando's Millennium Falcon. Sure, you can use the new character skins in all infantry modes, but the game is desperately crying out for new heroes, weapons and star cards. Okay, so I've been pretty hard on this update so far, and to say that Season 2 is a complete bust isn't true. There are some things that I'm very happy about, and in fact 2 of the things that I complained about in my re-review have been addressed. The first of these is the ability to spend skill points without having to back out to the main menu. It's not completely fixed. There are some situations in which you still can't spend points, like in between rounds when playing Strike. Weapons and weapon attachments also still require that you back out to the main menu before you can equip them. You don't have to redeem them like you did before, but having to leave your game for some things and not others is a pretty disjointed experience. Still, being able to purchase and upgrade star cards in between games is a boon. The other component I complained about was the hologram display used for inspecting character skins. This has seen a big improvement, which is visible throughout the menus. You still can't rotate or zoom character models to inspect them, but it's miles better than the original solution, and it really lifts the overall presentation of the UI. Admittedly, the second half of Season 2 is much more impressive than the first. Not that it was a difficult thing to achieve, but it's hard to feel grateful when a decent chunk of this content will set you back as much as 80,000 credits, or $24 if you're a masochist and prefer to spend real money. So what does this update mean for Battlefront 2 moving forward? Well, it's pretty clear now, if it wasn't before, that whatever resources are on this game, it's not enough to bring updates out with any kind of speed, even when there's something as big as a movie tie-in to capitalize on. Whatever EA and DICE have planned for the remaining updates, they really need to bring their A-game. Otherwise, what little faith the community has at this point will surely be stretched to breaking point. At EA Play, Dennis Branville, who is the design director of Battlefront 2, tried to reassure us that they are still committed to this game and making changes based on community feedback. Based on what was announced, there is some decent sounding content coming, including a focus on the Clone Wars, something that many fans have been asking for since launch. There is now a roadmap on the official site outlining everything that will be in Season 2. Apparently this will also be expanded at the beginning of July to detail future updates. These updates will be as frequent as once a month and will not only provide bug fixes and quality of life improvements, but add new ways to play the game. This all sounds too good to be true though, so the proof, as they say, will be in the pudding. Up until this point, I really have tried to stay optimistic because I honestly believe that DICE and the other development teams have made a great game, in spite of EA's best efforts of turning it into a slot machine. Battlefront 2 is a fun game, but so far it hasn't delivered the live service we were promised. At the risk of saying something controversial, I almost wish they'd kept the Season Pass. So far the move from a premium to a free content system has been underwhelming, and it has become increasingly harder to stay positive about this ever changing. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that whatever is coming next is decent, but I'm running pretty low on patience at this point. But let me know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you enjoyed this video, why not drop me a like? If you'd like to stay up to date with all my content, you can always subscribe, but otherwise, thanks for watching.